Welcome into the show, everybody. How are you? My name is Mark Farzetta. This is the Farzy Show, presented by Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. Lovely to have you along for the ride. I hope you guys enjoyed the Home Run Derby. Hope you guys enjoyed your fine Monday. I know I did. I want to throw a shout-out to my friends over there at the PHCC, particularly my friend Tom, who was kind enough to invite me out to this nice golf outing they had at Lulu yesterday. And the reason I bring this up is to, one, mention PHCC. No, this is not an advertisement. This is a sincere thank you. I mean, I'll endorse them. Yeah, they're great. Plumbing, heating, cooling, training centers, and they're putting this golf outing together to bring up raise money for scholarships for some young students that want to be involved in this going on in their life, going forward in their life. And they were kind enough to invite me out, and I had an absolute blast. Bring it up for two reasons. One, to give them a plug. Two, in case the cheeks are a little rosy today, somebody forgot his sunscreen like a real idiot. I did wear the cap, so the bald head is protected, but I might be a little rosy. For the people on the podcast, the cheeks are a little rosy for the YouTube audience today. But anyway, welcome in. Home Run Derby. Nick Castellanos lets us inside his mind. Dame Lillard trade conversation gets a little bit more conversation to it. A couple of more nuggets get dropped in there. Cronin, the general manager there of the Trailblazers, if it takes months, it's going to take months. We'll let you hear from him. And also, Patrick Beverley addresses the media to talk about Nick Nurse and to talk about James Harden. Let me just fast forward to the end here for a second. As we have been saying for the last week on this show, the 76ers are going to open the upcoming NBA season with the same starting five that they had at the close of last year's NBA season. So it's not going to be real different. It's not going to be real different. Patrick Beverley will be coming off the bench for you, so that'll be a nice little thing there. Paul Reed will be here, but that doesn't really change anything. And Mo Bamba will be here, and Montrezl Harrell will be here. So you're going to be running a lot of centers, basically, ladies and gentlemen. That's what's going to be going on. But other than that, you got a new head coach, so that's good too. Just to fast forward to the end, and to fast forward into October, November. It's going to be the same. It's going to be the same roster. All signs pointing to it's going to be exactly the same. But let me start off with this. We'll get to the Home Run Derby later. But I need to start with this because it melted my brain when I saw it yesterday. Ladies and gentlemen, here it is. Yesterday we were talking about a cartoon dog named Droopy. Oh, boy. And lo and behold, Nick Castellanos goes out there before the Home Run Derby. He's doing the media circuit while he's out there with the All-Star game. And I always look forward to this because sometimes always outlandish questions get asked. Players will have a chuckle about it. It's Major League Baseball's equivalent to media night before the Super Bowl. It's in no way, shape, or form on the same level as far as popularity goes, obviously, but it's the closest thing that Major League Baseball has to that particular event. So you get the outlandish questions, you get some weird stuff going on there. So a reporter goes up to Nick Castellanos to ask him about his favorite superhero. Now, apparently, Nick Castellanos had answered this question already, and his answer for his favorite superhero, with a huge pool to draw from, Superman, Batman. You could go with Thor as a comic book character if you really like. You go with the Incredible Hulk. You go with Iron Man, the Marvel Universe that is so popular nowadays, maybe more so than ever for even non-comic book or graphic novel fans. Nick Castellanos chose Scooby of Scooby-Doo. And he was asked to justify his answer yesterday ahead of the Home Run Derby.
Everyone was asked their favorite superheroes. Yeah. You said Scooby-Doo.
Sure.
I didn't realize Scooby-Doo was a superhero. Can you kind of explain his superhero lore?
I mean, well, first off, he's a dog, right? And he can talk.
Fair enough. Okay.
And he solves mysteries. So I think that a dog that can talk and helps people by solving mysteries, I think is a superhero.
Let me just, for the people on the podcast, there is a glare that Nick Castellanos gives to this reporter, as if to say, who the hell else would you choose in all the superhero realm? You can almost hear it. Here it is.
Everyone was asked their favorite superheroes.
Yeah.
You said Scooby-Doo.
Sure.
I didn't realize Scooby-Doo was a superhero. Can you kind of explain his superhero lore?
I mean, well, first off, he's a dog, right? And he can talk.
And it's just a pause and stares at him. Like, how dare you not acknowledge the superhero-ness of Scooby-Doo? I never thought of Scooby-Doo as a superhero. I was always a Superman guy as a superhero guy, you know, and then I got into the Marvel thing, and I thought like Iron Man was kind of cool, you know. But you know, it's not superhero; it's really it's the outfit, it's the suit that does it. But yeah, I just found it interesting. What comes to mind is the classic meme, you know, like when the edibles hit. This is justification for Scooby-Doo as a superhero. He's a dog and he can talk. Okay, that is in a dog world, that is pretty much a superhero trait. But in everything else, and he helps solve mysteries. Did he really help? Because I thought he and you know, Shaggy were just baking out the old mystery machine there, and everybody else was solving things while you know everyone else was doing the work. But I guess they would always stumble upon something, and that would help. Oh, good one, Scoop! You know, that whole thing. But that's where Nick Castellanos' head was at during the All-Star weekend. And now we'll hopefully see him play in tonight's All-Star game out there in Seattle. As for the actual sports that took place yesterday, the Home Run Derby was something that was pretty incredible. 41 home runs. You've probably seen it by now, but in case you hadn't, 41 home runs hit by Julio Rodriguez, J-Rod, in the first round. He did not win, in case you see his name out there in the headlines a lot. The award, the winner yesterday was Vlad Guerrero Jr., 25 home runs in the final round of the Home Run Derby to take home the title. Randy Arozarena, who the Phillies just saw play for the Rays there, hit 35 home runs in the second round. J-Rod hit the 41 home runs in the first round. And how about this? Ailey Rushman, the catcher for the Baltimore Orioles, switch hit in the first round. He was an 8 seed, I believe it was. He switch hit. I never saw that. It never happened before in the Home Run Derby. He was batting left-handed, and then like, oh, let's give it a go on the other side, and started hitting home runs from the right-handed side of the plate. It's pretty cool to see that. So very entertaining night out there in Seattle, whether it would be Scooby-Doo, a superhero, or Vlad Guerrero Jr. winning the Home Run Derby. That's what you got. There's a couple of basketball news and notes that I really want to get into tonight. I am looking forward to the All-Star game. We'll talk about that in a minute, but I'm looking forward to seeing what goes on to Castellanos, see if Craig Kimbrell gets in the ball game. And if Kimbrell doesn't, fine. Take a week off, man. Don't even bother hurling for a while. Phillies are certainly going to need you in the second half of the season. But there's a couple of things. And when I was at the golf outing yesterday, and I'll get questions about this on social media as well, and in my own circles, people are talking about it. But it's still whether or not you would trade Tyrese Maxey for Damian Lillard. And that's a hot button question. I could honestly see both sides of this argument. Me, I would do a trade that brings Dame Lillard to Philadelphia. I would do that trade. Yes, I would trade Tyrese Maxey for Dame Lillard. If Portland calls and offers you Dame Lillard and say, look, we can't work out anything with Miami, one of his other top 3 team, and this is all hypothetical, but we know Miami is the number 1 spot. He only wants to go to Miami. It's Miami and everything else sucks. But if somehow you could get to the, I don't know, less sucking neighborhood as opposed to just not going to anywhere other than Miami, if somehow you could creep into the mind of Dame Lillard that he would want to come to Philadelphia and play with Joel Embiid and all that, if you could somehow get here, and a lot has to happen before that, whether or not James Harden is still here, whether or not you're going to trade Tyrese Maxey, whether or not you're going to trade Tobias Harris, because you got to make that money match, as we all know, and it gets drilled into our heads time and time again. If or it's a 3-team deal, and you end up sending Harden to the Clippers and Maxey out to Portland, and all the hypotheticals that have been put out there, I would do the deal, and here's why. This is the window. I think it's obvious as to why you would do the deal: to win now. You have the MVP of the league now. You have a window of 2-3 years, maybe, to win a championship. And if Dame Lillard comes here, your odds are a lot better to win a championship. Now, why wouldn't now? Again, for the record, I would do that deal. I would trade Maxey for Dame Lillard to win now. Here's the other side of it. And here's why I understand why some people are torn on this. A lot of people don't believe that they're going to win with Joel Embiid, even if Dame Lillard comes here. So what is the window really? Do you really have a 2 or 3 year window if Dame Lillard comes here with Joel Embiid? Or do you just think Joel Embiid is just not going to win no matter who the Sixers pair him with, no matter who Daryl Morey trades him for? And if you do think that there's no chance for the Sixers to win a championship with Joel Embiid, and you've already seen enough of Joel Embiid, and maybe you're even on the hate train for Joel Embiid, and you just don't like the guy, and you don't think he's ever going to win, then yeah, you don't make this trade. Because with Embiid and Lillard here, let's say that your window is 2 to 3 years. With Tyrese Maxey, holding on to Tyrese Maxey, that makes you think that you could possibly have a window of 10 years to win a championship. If Tyrese Maxey, let's say they have that gap year. Let's say Tyrese Maxey has the opportunity to really flourish. Let's say Tyrese Maxey has the opportunity to really become the second scorer behind Joel Embiid, ahead of James Harden. If you have a year where you ship away Harden, possibly still hold on to Tobias Harris, that's not going to affect. I mean, if Harden isn't here, Maxey is going to flourish. That's what I believe. He's going to take those major steps forward. So if you do have him as your second scorer, if you do have him as your number one guard on this team, I think he is going to take it and run with it. Now, can he be an all-star? Can he be a potential MVP in the league? If his ceiling is an all-star, if his ceiling is even at some point in the season getting involved in the MVP conversation, well, then, yeah, you shouldn't do that deal. If you believe that Tyrese Maxey will grow into being Dame Lillard, if you believe Tyrese Maxey will grow into being a 30-point-per-game type of player, if you believe Tyrese Maxey will grow into at least being an all-star, then no way, shape, or form are you making that deal. Now, I love Tyrese Maxey. I do not want to trade Tyrese Maxey. And I can't think of a better compliment or a better way to express my love for Tyrese Maxey other than saying, yeah, there's one guy I'd probably trade Tyrese Maxey for, that's Dame Lillard. That means you really respect what Tyrese Maxey is, and you really respect what he could be. Now, the reason I would, to go back to it, do the deal is because I want to win now. And to look at a kid that you've been watching, for his first 3 years of his NBA career and realize how good he has been. I think he can grow in something close to what Dame Lillard is, but I don't think he'll be Dame Lillard. I don't think he'll be a I don't think he'll be a 30 points per game type of scorer in the NBA. But I do think he'll be a number one option for a team. And I think it'd be a number one option for a couple of teams, more than a handful of teams in the NBA. But when it comes to Maxey right now, and it comes to the Sixers right now, this is the time to win. If you think Tyrese Maxey is going to be an MVP of the league, then you hold on to him. I don't think he's going to be an MVP of the league. And if you could have a guy like Joel Embiid here already who is an MVP, I add to that, and I try to win as fast as humanly possible. I would like to say that the process has nothing to do with it. I would like to say that the years of dreck and ugliness have nothing to do with it, but it does. I would say, it doesn't matter. That's the past. You can't change it. It matters about right now. Well, right now, if you have an opportunity to make that trade, you make the trade. Daryl Morey, though, is going to play that long game. As we have heard from multiple sources, multiple interviews we've had on this show, everybody's willing to play the long game. And yesterday, the general manager of the Portland Trailblazers took to the microphone to let you know that he too is willing to play the long game.
I think what I've learned more than anything is patience is critical. Like, don't be reactive. Don't jump at things just to seemingly solve a problem. I think the teams that have ended up in the most positive situation post-trade have been the ones that have been really diligent and taken their time and not been impulsive, or, the teams that really kept their urgency under control. So I think that's how my approach has been with this and will be with this, is we're going to be patient. We're going to do what's best for our team. And we're going to see, how this lands. And if it takes months, it takes months.
So yeah, this isn't going to be over quickly. This is going to drag out, as many of us assumed, as many of us thought, as the trade rumors were buzzing, and Dame Lillard going back on July 1st, saying that he wanted to be traded out of Portland, and then reports coming out that, yes, Miami was the only spot he really wanted to be traded for, and there's not really a lot Miami can offer here. And as we've heard recently from Brian Windhorst talking about how Tyrese Maxey's value continues to grow, let's talk about something that is the only real tangible thing. Now, forget about what everyone's saying for a second. Now, first off, hold on, to focus on that. If it takes months, it takes months. Daryl Morey is willing to play the long game as well. This isn't going down anytime soon. But let's talk about the one main thing. As Jalen Hurts says, let's keep the main thing the main thing. And while the Sixers have gone out and matched offer sheets to Paul Reed, and while the Sixers have brought in Mo Bamba, and while the Sixers have brought in Patrick Beverley, while they've hired Nick Nurse, apparently they are very happy that James Harden has opted into his player option for the upcoming season. Tyrese Maxey has still not been extended as a rookie. Okay. If Tyrese Maxey wasn't taken 21st overall, if Tyrese Maxey was taken even in the top 3 in that draft, top 4 in that draft at worst, which probably would have happened had it not been for COVID, throwing a huge boulder into the calm pond of NCAA basketball. If he didn't, that didn't happen going into the draft, then he probably would have been a top 3, top 4 pick. So, with the Sixers being in the spot that they're at now, if Maxey was a higher pick, if he was a Ben Simmons, if he was a Joel Embiid, the play, we'd be going crazy. The fact that he wasn't extended, because I remember the conversation around Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. They hadn't won anything yet. And you better. Ben Simmons said, especially Ben Simmons, you're going to give this guy $170 million, and he hasn't even shown you that he could improve on a jump shot yet. I remember that was conversation. Oh, well, you got to do that deal. Okay, so Maxey, you don't have to do that deal. I would think you have to do that deal. So why haven't you done the deal? Okay, well, let's look at what's tangible. Let's look at what's real. They haven't extended him because they want to make him valuable in a trade. They want to keep that option open. He's still going to play for the Sixers next year, as of right now. They didn't have to extend him. Another team could extend him, but that would be after they've already traded for him. Yes, they would know that they still have to extend him after the deal, but as of right now, they don't. As of right now, they can still get him at a discount price. That's the reason they haven't extended Tyrese Maxey. It's got nothing to do with anything else. And Tyrese Maxey knows this. You know what it is? It's your boss telling you, we love you. You're doing great stuff. You're doing incredible stuff. Well, I'm due for that bonus. I'm due for that raise coming around. Well, we're on a little bit of a freeze right now. We can't really do anything financially, but we really love you. We really like what you're doing. Keep up the great work. They're like, okay, money talks and BS walks. All right. Love Tyrese, and I love Tyrese Maxey, but let's call it what it is. The fact that the Sixers have not extended him means they're making him part of a trade. Now, whether or not the trade goes through, that's yet to be determined, because a lot of things have to go right other than just, and this isn't just Tyrese Maxey being traded. That's not just, there's so many other moving parts involving so many other teams that it's not just about one player for one player. So let's just acknowledge that out of the gate. But the Sixers want to make sure that if the sweepstakes open up and they're invited, if the bidding really starts up on more of a mass appeal other than just, all right, Miami talking to Portland, Portland talking to Miami, if it extends beyond that, and Philadelphia is one of those places, Philadelphia and Daryl Morey want to make sure that they're in on that deal. That's why they haven't extended Tyrese Maxey. And that's the only reason they haven't extended Tyrese Maxey. Oh, salary cap and all this stuff. Yeah, they'll work it out. But when it comes to just Tyrese Maxey and not extending him, this is the reason. Because you might get Dame Lillard. And you might also be able to trade James Harden. This might be a 3-team deal, like I mentioned, that's been talked about before, with the Clippers getting Harden and the Blazers getting Maxey. and the Sixers getting Dame Lillard. We're not there yet. But as Joe Cronin just said, general manager of the Portland Trail Blazers, if it takes months, it takes months. And as we know about Daryl Morey from watching him work in the past, and everybody talking about Daryl Morey from Woj to Windhorst to whoever, Daryl Morey is willing to play that long game as well. So this isn't going to be over quickly. This is going to last a long time. Now, how does it end? Well, beginning of the season, I still think you're going to have the same starting five that you had at the end of last year. Go a month, 2 months into the season, that's where I think a deal will get done. Whether or not that involves Maxey at that point for Dame Lillard, don't know. If it's just a James Harden trade and you're trying to bring back something in return for James Harden, that might be the more likely scenario. But as of right now, I don't see it being a huge splash of a deal. And maybe the Heat come around and they offer more than the Sixers can. Maybe they're offering more picks than the Sixers can. We don't know. That's a possibility. Maybe down the road, that's what's going to go down here. But I don't think if the Sixers make a trade, I don't think there's going to be something that they wait till the deadline. I think it's going to be like a November-esque deal where you brought in Jimmy Butler, and I know that was the Elton Brand Sixers, right? Remember that? I don't think it's going to be something where they wait for the deadline and then feel like they have to redefine the whole team right before the playoffs, because it feels like that hardly ever works. So that's the way I think that this season's going to go down. If they make a trade at all, it's not going to be a huge trade at the deadline. I should rephrase that. If they make a huge trade that redefines your starting five, I don't think it happens at the deadline. I think it happens months before the deadline. So you have more time to organize the new talent on your team and get everybody on the same page, chemistry-wise, as close to the same page as possible before you roll into the playoffs. That's the way I see it going down. Now, what's really interesting is yesterday, as far as the James Harden stuff goes, what's really interesting is Patrick Beverley addressed the media, and he said one of the reasons he signed here in Philadelphia was because of James Harden. He says, "I love you, James. I love you, brother. I hope you stay." So recently we've had Patrick Beverley come out and say that he wants James Harden. That was yesterday. Joel Embiid said he was disappointed in that interview that we talked about yesterday with Rachel Nichols. He talked about how he was disappointed when he learned of the news that James Harden wanted out of Philadelphia, that he requested a trade. He also hopes that he'll come around. The news coming out after Nick Nurse kind of danced around the answer at his press conference regarding James Harden. Do you want James Harden back? James Harden's a hell of a player. And then Howard Eskin saying, well, that doesn't really answer the question. If he comes back, I'm happy. I told you guys at the time and in the weeks following that him not answering the question originally is not a slight on James Harden. I think what he was trying to do there was extend the negotiating terms, giving himself a little bit of wiggle room. Because if he says, oh, yes, absolutely, I want James Harden back. If he says that, well, then that might drive up the price a little bit more with James Harden. If he says, a more, vague answer, well, then that's playing, the gamesmanship card a little bit. Yeah, if I say, I absolutely want him back. All right, 4 years, $210 million. If I say, well, yeah, it'd be nice to have him back. Okay, maybe that's more of the 2 years. Maybe that's more of the 2 years, whatever it would be, 40 million, 50 million a year, whatever it would be, 40 probably. And he could play that game a little bit more. And notice the reports are that James Harden wanted a long-term deal, and the Sixers did not offer a long-term deal. The Sixers were more along the realm of a 2-year deal. And it turns out that apparently what he thought he had in Houston, he really didn't have. So it makes me think all the reports about Houston, all the conversation about Houston were, in actuality, simply to drive the price up from the 76ers. But I feel between Joel Embiid with Rachel Nichols, Patrick Beverley yesterday, and Nick Nurse's answer, even at his press conference, and then the report that came out about how James Harden was intrigued by Nick Nurse's offensive strategy and his coaching style. I feel like the Sixers are really trying to roll out the red carpet here to be like, hey, man, we know you want to trade. Well, why don't we just give us another shot, if not for a couple of months? If another trade comes up, if there's a good possibility somebody else wants you, then we'll explore that option. But why don't we start out this season with you still on the team? And I know I've brought this up in the past as a negative between James Harden and Daryl Morey. The thing that gets me the most is that these guys are supposed to be besties, and now here we are. At this point, we're at a point where the guys want to break up, and Harden wants to go somewhere else. I do think with the friendship being there, they can still sell one another on the idea of still working together for at least a couple more months, maybe even one more full year, but at least a couple more months. Of course, I say all this in the vein of prediction. I don't say all this in the vein of desire, because what I truly desire, what I really want, is the Sixers to not make any huge trade. If Dame Lillard is truly available, yes, I'm making the trade with Maxey. If he's not, and Philadelphia never enters the conversation for real, then I don't want James Harden here. I want him traded. Even if it's for next to nothing, I want him traded. The market for James Harden is not phenomenal here. As we've talked about, it's not even a Norman Powell type of market for James Harden. So that's not very good. But if you can get something as opposed to nothing, if he didn't opt into his player deal and sign somewhere else, you'd get nothing, literally nothing. The fact that he opted into the player deal means you're at least going to get something. I run it back with Tyrese Maxey. I see how good Tyrese Maxey can be for real. I see if Tyrese Maxey can be that legit number 2 scorer. I see what Nick Nurse. I see what his offense is going to look like. I want to see what what Joel Embiid looks like in a Nick Nurse offense. I want to see what Tobias Harris looks like. And then at the deadline, you add some pieces. Maybe if you're close and you feel like you can really make a push. And maybe Tyrese Maxey does take, as I've said before, maybe he does take that Jalen Hurts-esque jump when he's really trusted as being the number 1 point guard on this team. Maybe he is. Maybe he's the guy that can take a Hurtsian-like jump in his career. He did it from year 1 to year 2. Granted, he had a lot more room. He had a lot more room to grow without Ben Simmons all of a sudden not being here, and he was your starting point guard. So maybe he can do that again. And if he can, then yeah, maybe you are talking about somebody that can develop into Dame Lillard. Maybe you're talking about somebody that can be a 30 points per game type of scorer. I think Maxey's got the talent to do it. It's whether or not he's going to have the room to accomplish it. Without James Harden being here and just being the Maxey, Embiid, and Harris show here in Philadelphia, and whatever Patrick Beverley will do to entertain you, or PJ Tucker, then by all means, let's have at it. Let's have at it. But I don't think Morey is going to rest on that idea. I think Morey's going to try to convince James Harden that everything's just fine and dandy here in Philadelphia. And I think whether it's Patrick Beverley addressing the media in a press conference, or it's Joel Embiid talking to Rachel Nichols, I think the Sixers, or Nick Nurse addressing the media again at any point, I think what's going to end up happening is the red carpet's going to continue to be rolled out for a return for James Harden. You're requesting a trade? But James, come on. Okay, fine. That's the way I think it's going to go down. I don't think it's requesting a trade for James Harden. James Harden requesting a trade is not demanding a trade. The reports aren't trade me or else. The reports aren't, oh, things have really soured between Daryl Morey and James Harden, and now James Harden must be traded. That's not the story. That might increasingly be the story in Portland between Dame Lillard and Joe Cronin. And if that happens, maybe the Sixers do enter the fray. Although I do love the idea of reports coming out there about Dame Lillard's agent calling teams and be like, you don't want this guy. If you want him, he's going to be a bad apple. Okay. They're going to play the long game. Everybody's going to play the long game. Buckle up, everybody. It's going to be a very, very long road ahead. The other thing, by the way, that Patrick Beverley got into, aside from James Harden, was just Nick Nurse. And if I have the story right, Beverley did talk about it yesterday. Beverley was going out of Arkansas, got suspended from school, got kicked out. Well, yeah, he got suspended. Instead of serving the suspension, he's like, I'm going to play overseas. He had an option. He could play in the D-League or he could go overseas. The D-League coach he would have played for, Nick Nurse. Isn't that incredible? Now, the story goes with Patrick Beverley that he admitted he handed in a paper that wasn't his. All right, so he had to write a paper. Somebody else wrote it for him. Whatever. and he had to go play. He could play in the D League, as it was known at the time, or he could go and play it overseas. So he played for the Ukraine Basketball League, played for the Greek Basketball League, got drafted by the Lakers, and then ended up playing for the Russian Basketball League for St. Petersburg. So the man's a well-traveled man. And now, of course, he's enjoyed a long NBA career. So he talked about his relationship with Nick Nurse, talked about how he really liked Nick Nurse, but the best thing for him was to go over and play overseas. So the two have a history there. I was looking back on it with the Vipers, the D-League team of the Rockets back in the day, because of Nick Nurse and Daryl Morey knew each other from all the way then, all the way back then. I was like, they don't technically overlap, but maybe they had maybe there was a recruitment conversation, maybe there was something like that. And then it was also, what was it, the Grand Valley or whatever the other D-League team that Nick Nurse coached for. There was a recruitment opportunity there as well for Patrick Beverley. But like a lot of young players, if you could play overseas, you could play over in Europe. Hey, man, if you have any ounce of wanderlust, go overseas and play ball. They treat those players like gods. So in terms, maybe not the fan base. It's not soccer, okay? But in terms of like the team, they take care of you with the place to live, car, and all that fun stuff. So if you want to go make some money before you go play in the NBA. Patrick Beverley, I think, executed that beautifully before now having a long NBA career. And now here he is in Philadelphia. We all know the stuff he said about living in Philadelphia, tasting the city, smelling the city, and all that stuff. The guy's going to be a fan favorite. Already plays a style of basketball that we all love here in Philadelphia. And I think he's really going to embrace the city, and the city's going to embrace him. He's a well-cultured man. He knows what's what. So listening to him talk yesterday about the Sixers and the culture and the city and playing for Nick Nurse and trying to do an open recruitment for James Harden to feel like the red carpet's rolled out for him to stay here in Philadelphia, he hit on every note yesterday. Patrick Beverley hit on every single note. Before we get to our chat check, wanted to take a moment and talk about our beloved Philadelphia Phillies. All-Star break is tonight. Or All-Star game is tonight. Nick Castellanos probably be in some of the later innings there. Okay. Craig Kimbrell might make an appearance. Although as a bullpen guy, I hope he just sits it out. Just relax. I know everyone wants to see the starters. That's fine. I am waiting with bated breath, and I am counting the hours until Friday night at 6:05, where the Phillies will take on the San Diego Padres and start the unofficial second half of their season. Everything, even in this All-Star game, Nick Castellanos maybe gets an at-bat or two, maybe. I always love seeing Phillies play well in the All-Star game, and all that's great. But I really feel like everybody else during this time that didn't make the All-Star team. I talked about Bryson Stott, should have gotten more consideration for it. And I think he's certainly right there with a lot of the talented players in the All-Star game and all that stuff. But I am very happy that these guys are getting this rest right now. And when you talk about an inconsistent offense for this Phillies team, and you talk about the one thing that Rob Thompson focused on after they played Game 3 against the Marlins, about how they hadn't hit their stride yet as an offense. They haven't really found that consistent offense night in and night out. That was the first thing he talked about as far as what he was looking forward to for the second half of the season. Yes, look, the starting pitching has been shaky. Guys like Nola, Wheeler, Sanchez, especially coming off his rehab assignment, going right into the fold. And then after his first 3 starts, after that was pretty much lights out up until his last 2 starts now. So he had that incredible June that we all know about. And seeing guys like Taijuan Walker and other guys get a break, seeing these guys get some rest to come out in the second half and hopefully have that push where they really solidify themselves as a playoff team. To the point where we're not looking at the last 2 weeks in September going, I hope they really hold on here. Hopefully we're looking at it as they're up 2, 3, 4 games going into those last 2 weeks. And you're just like, all right, keep it coming, boys. And not like a half game, for instance. That's what I'm hoping for. And I remember at the end of last season, Rob Thompson just talked about, even when the team started to fail and their late August, mid-September good run that they went on there started to wane a little bit. And they started to go back and play some bad baseball. Rob Thompson stayed the course the entire time. This is a playoff team. We're going to the playoffs. We got this. That whole type of attitude that he had in his post-game press conferences was instilled in his players too. Yes, it doesn't look good right now, but we're still making the playoffs. Yes, this looks bad for a playoff team, but yet we are still a playoff team. Hopefully we have a little bit more wiggle room. We can relax a little bit at the end of September. But I am looking forward to a reset button hopefully being hit, not just because of rest, but because of a mental respite as well, where you can have a guy like Nola or Wheeler or Sanchez, or have guys in the lineup like Kyle Schwarber or Trey Turner. Have these guys take that break before going into the second half of the season and not participating in the All-Star festivities. This is where it could be a blessing in disguise. Sure, everyone would like to have 3-4 All-Stars in the game. And the Phillies, according to their salary, according to their payroll, they should have about that. But they don't, unfortunately, because things didn't work out. But when you talk about a big money guy, like a $300 million player like Trey Turner, I'd like to see a $300 million player in the last, 78 games, 77 games left in the season. When you talk about a guy like Kyle Schwarber, I'd like to see those power numbers get back up. Yes, he's on pace for a 40 home run season. That's fantastic. Great. But you talk about the average, talk about the on-base percentage, talk about the strikeout rate. Ooh, baby. I could do without another 200 strikeout season. 46 home runs does help swallow that pill. But if you can avoid the 200 strikeouts again, especially as a leadoff hitter, when you have other options in this lineup like Bryson Stott, then yeah, I'd like to see guys bounce back. I saw my friend Kevin Cooney put out his lineup that he'd like to see in the second half of the season. We got into this yesterday. Kyle Schwarber, I think after the All-Star break is still going to be your leadoff hitter. I think Rob Thompson and Kyle Schwarber had a bit of a, this is all speculation, but I think they had a bit of a handshake agreement that while Bryce Harper was not in the lineup, Kyle Schwarber was not going to be the leadoff hitter. But once Bryce Harper came back, he was going to go back to the lineup that got him to the World Series last year. And Kyle Schwarber probably agreed to that and said, yeah, okay, great. And because notice when Harper came back, he went right back to the old lineup. And then he got away from it for a little bit. And then June started and Schwarber was back at the top of the order. So I think Schwarber is comfortable and wants to bat leadoff. I think he likes batting leadoff. But what I think is best for the team is that Bryson Stott retakes that leadoff hitter role. I don't think Rob Thompson is going to just automatically make that change. I think he is going to give Kyle Schwarber a week, maybe 2 weeks of being back in that leadoff spot after the All-Star break in hopes that the week off helps rejuvenate him, helps get his mind off the game, helps hit the reset button for him. And I think he's going to give him another opportunity to lead off again. And if that fails, and Bryson Stott is continuing to hit, and he's a 300 hitter with a 330 on base percentage, then I think you're going to have Bryson Stott back at the top of the order. And then if you can continue to get the good on base percentage from Trey Turner, similar to what you had from him in the month of June, then you're going to talk about two table setters that are going to be setting the table in a very consistent manner for this Phillies ball club. And then get on base for Nick Castellanos to bat third. Bryce Harper is your 400. Maybe you have Kyle Schwarber then bat as your cleanup hitter. Maybe you have Harper hit third and you have Castellanos bat cleanup. Maybe those are things that he's going to change in the second half of the year. But I don't think he is going to use this opportunity, although I think he should. I don't think Rob Thompson, again, in the vein of prediction, not of desire, I think Rob Thompson is going to have Kyle Schwarber top of the order on Friday. So the bottom line is I hope these guys are going to be well rested and ready to attack when they come out in the second half. And then when it comes to major changes in the lineup, I think that's going to be waiting for a while, maybe 2 more weeks. Let me tell you about Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut, right there on Jewelers Row. For over 40 years, Steven Singer's been in the love business in Philadelphia, helping people get engaged and fall in love each and every day. Steven Singer Jewelers, one place, one price, the perfect price. Online at IHateStevenSinger.com. That's IHateStevenSinger.com. So, ladies and gentlemen, go to the other corner of 8th and Walnut. And if you want that perfect price, you want to get treated like a real family member, then trust Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. One place, one price. Online at IHateStevenSinger.com. That's IHateStevenSinger.com. Let me tell you about Manscaped, the leader in below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped. Join the 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with their skin-safe technology that helps you reduce the risk of nicks, so you can manscape with confidence and comfort. So try Manscaped at manscaped.com. How about Freestone Farm CBD? FreestoneFarmCBD.com. You'll love their tropical tasting Bayox that clocks in at a chart-topping 24.1%. And Super CBD, which is half Hindu, Kush, and 21%. Genetics of these guys are off the charts. So try Freestone Farm CBD at FreestoneFarmCBD.com. How about PHL Sports Station, Philadelphia Sports Station, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs. That's PHLSportsNation.com. Let's get into the chat check. I'm going to start it over on the Jacob Media YouTube page. What's going on, everybody? Nice to see you. Get your booster? What's going on? Farzy, probably still all in on the Fightins after dropping 2 in South Florida and coming out of the break with a wild card competition and tough 2H schedule. Oh, second half schedule. I'm still all in on the Fightins. The Fightins are making the playoffs, baby. They're half game out of a playoff spot right now. That's nothing. You know, I'm old enough to tell you about the time that the Phillies were down 11 games or 7 games, 11 to play, and they came back and they won the division against those stupid New York Metropolitans. Half game in the wild card to the San Francisco Giants. That ain't nothing. But it was disheartening. As I said, it was disheartening. Look, I can still be all into the Phils and criticize them, and I can still criticize the Phils and be all in on them. I can acknowledge that it was stupid and dumb and awful and heartbreaking is a little much, and just off-putting. The fact that they went and swept the Rays and then lost 2 or 3 to the Marlins. I can say that. Greg, my guy, Farzy, could still think the Fightins are going to the playoffs if they were 10 games under. Well, that is untrue. That is untrue. 10 games under at this point? No. However, if they win 23 of their last 32 games, oh yeah, that's a nice little run there. If they've been one of the best teams in baseball for like a month and a half, then there you go. Biden 2024. I would be a better GM than Morey. You know what? The thing with Daryl Morey is what has he done? Like I don't worship at the all. Like, here's what I don't like. I don't like when a figure becomes bigger than the team. Like, the thing I didn't like about Sam Hinkie was that he became bigger than the team. The thing I didn't like about Chip Kelly, well, in Chip we trust. I was the first one to say that, regrettably. I said it sarcastically for the record. In Chip we trust. I didn't. Why? What, this college guy's going to come over and all of a sudden, yeah, he's going to do everything right? Nah, all right, I don't think so. Daryl Morey is one of those people that becomes bigger than the franchise. Now, fortunately, it's not the Sam Hinkie era where it was like, well, what else are we going to root for? I mean, Embiid's hurt. Ben Simmons isn't even here yet, and Brian Colangelo is here now. Like, for me, Daryl Morey is just this figure in the front office that, for some reason, gets these accolades like he's won multiple championships and built a dynasty, at least one dynasty. And it's like, well, he traded for James Harden, but he gave up a lot for James Harden. Tyrese Maxey, a 21st overall pick. That fell in the lap, but he still had to make the pick, and he made the pick. 20 other teams didn't. So I don't like when people look at the GM and be like, oh, he'll make the deal. Well, I don't have a lot of confidence in Daryl Morey. I'll be flat out honest with you, man. I don't look at Daryl Morey like, oh, well, at least we got Daryl Morey making the deal here. No. If anything, Daryl Morey is a point of optimism. If you want to be optimistic, it's a point of optimism for James Harden coming back. I don't want James Harden coming back. I want to just wipe the slate clean. Well, now, I want to have the gap year. Excuse me. It's not like I want to just trade Embiid and trade everybody for nothing. I don't want to blow it up necessarily. Biden, I may fall upstairs, but at least I don't bat 180. I may fall upstairs, but at least I don't hit 184 as a leadoff hitter. That's true. Charles Kors. What's up, Charles? Team seems so clueless as it stands. No Dame, no title. Charles, I think you and I agree. No Dame goes to Miami, and the Sixers become 4th or lower in the East with their MVP best years. Yeah, Charles, I think you and I are on the same page there. It doesn't feel good. Like, I don't want to trade Tyrese Maxey, but if it means Dame Lillard, I'm trading Tyrese Maxey. April, back to the Farzy Show YouTube channel. What's up, guys? April, what's up, April? Morning. April, Derby was exciting to watch. Vladdy Jr. definitely learned from watching Dad. I'll tell you, it's funny, man. Vlad Guerrero Jr. is one of my favorite players, or excuse me, Vlad Sr. was one of my favorite players ever to watch. Back with the Expos, with the Angels, the brief stint he had, the Nationals, the brief stint he had with the Orioles. I loved watching Vladimir Guerrero Sr. Vlad Jr. is incredible to watch as well, and that was fun, the father-son idea of the home run derby. But I got to tell you, what stole the thing for me was ESPN did a piece on Ken Griffey Jr. and the 93 home run derby, which I didn't even realize. That was the first home run derby to be televised? I didn't even realize that. I mean, I was 11. And as most of you guys know, my grandfather was an usher for the Baltimore Orioles. My mom is from the Baltimore area. She met my dad up here, and I'm from Ambler originally, but we go down to Baltimore a lot, and I would go to a lot of games at Memorial Stadium. My grandfather was the home plate, or the behind home plate section usher, so we'd buy the cheap seats, and then we'd sit wherever there wasn't people behind home plate, so it was great. And then Camden Yards, there was a lot of games, so there's a lot of nostalgia for me at Camden Yards. And when Ken Griffey Jr. hit the warehouse, that was supposed to be impossible. You know, imagine me, 10, 11 years old. The stadium's built now. You know, the Camden Yards is built. It's like no one can hit the warehouse. You can't hit the warehouse. You know? I think was Sam Horn a lefty? The Orioles had a designated hitter. I think it was Sam Horn. And everyone's like, oh, this big dude, he can hit the warehouse. And nobody could hit the warehouse. 460-plus feet, Ken Griffey Jr. with the backwards hat at the home run derby hits the warehouse. And that was a moment. That's like one of the greatest moments in home run derby history. He didn't even win. I don't even know who won that year. It might have been Barry Bonds. I don't know. But I don't care. Or Juan Gonzalez, maybe. But the cool thing was that Griffey hit the warehouse. And everybody remembers Griffey hit the warehouse. It's the most memorable moment. So who really won the 93 home run derby? I think it was Ken Griffey Jr. because he had the most memorable moment. Last night, J-Rod hitting the 41 home runs in the first round. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. hitting 25 in the final round. Other years, we have had Phillies perform phenomenally. What was it? 19 home runs by Bobby Abreu. Then the following year, Ryan Howard goes and wins the home run derby, putting balls into the river in Cincinnati, I want to say they played it. Some awesome memories with the home run derby, and it's a very nostalgic thing. The All-Star game for me as a baseball fan, lifelong baseball fan, is very nostalgic for me as well. But the home run derby is like one of the things you watch and you feel like a kid again. And the format they play at, forget about even home runs. It's a track meet, the format that they play now. It's literally swing, 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 swing. There's no timeouts, there's no Gatorade baths, whatever. Or not Gatorade baths, but guys taking that moment to cool off. But yeah, it was pretty cool, April, to watch that last night. Sean Gillespie, what's going on? April, that sounded a little like a little kid explaining Scooby-Doo. It absolutely did. April, Nikki C. Stoner, confirmed. Freestone Farm CBD. Sean Kilrain, what's going on? Sean Gillespie. Scooby accidentally solves mysteries, though. His cowardice and being a pothead. That's true. That's true. Mally! If there was a day to say smoke him if you got him, it's the day where we're talking about Scooby-Doo. Sean Gillespie, Mally, everyone. Hello, Mally. Was nice to see Julio Rodriguez smash Pete Alonso out of the Derby. Did you see Pete Alonso's face walking to the plate after Julio Rodriguez hit 41 home runs? Pete Alonso, polar bear. He goes up to the plate like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do now. All right. Well, all these people showed up, so I guess I'll still try. But then he gets done. He hits like 20, and he walks away, and he's like, yeah, wow, I wasn't. Hat tip to you, sir. What's going on here? Fuji, what's up? Fuji, I was golfing yesterday. I'm sorry. I was I meant to get back to you, brother. Sorry I couldn't make the show. But I'm so good to come on. What do you need me in August? I got you, Fuji. But happy Tuesday to you. Yeah, is Christopher Sanchez supposed to get the start on Friday? I saw he is slated to start the first game back from the All-Star break. I think ESPN has him there. But why? Don't you want to set your rotation for the... Don't you want to go Wheeler, Nola, Sanchez, Walker? I'm sorry. Wheeler, Nola, Suarez, excuse me. Christopher Sanchez? Or Taiwan Walker, Christopher Sanchez? Don't you want to set the 5-man rotation? I saw that too, Fuji, and I'm hoping that that's wrong. I'm hoping that Rob Thompson changes that up. April, I still remember him hitting the warehouse. Talk about a superhero. Absolutely. Ken Griffey Jr. for me is, I mean, there's certain things that, like, when you're really discovering sports, you see as a kid and then you see as an adult, and you look back, an adult, quote unquote, and you look back on it and you go, wow. Like, and instantly you're transformed back into being that, 9, 10, 11-year-old kid. And you're like, if I see highlights of Ken Griffey Jr., I am 10 years old all over again. And I'm just watching that sweetest swing ever in baseball. It is a beautiful thing. And I'm watching that swing and I'm just like, damn, that is backwards cap. They interviewed Mike Trout for this piece that they did on Ken Griffey Jr. And Mike Trout had the backwards hat on. He's like, yeah, this is what every kid wanted to be. Every kid who played baseball, they went up to the batter's box. They flipped. If they practiced, they'd flip the lid. And they were Ken Griffey Jr. I was a left-handed hitter, so I was really Ken Griffey Jr. Yeah, just because of that. Anyway, the crazy thing is Vladdy was gassed by the middle round. He was hitting most of them with just his core. His legs were toast. It's a track meet. It's an absolute track meet. You're going out there trying to hit home runs. It's crazy. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Did I get everybody? Draper 69, what's up? I don't know if it makes me feel old or young that Farzy was 10 in 1993. I was 11 or whatever. But whatever. Yeah, it was. Where was I in 93? I was living in New Freedom, Pennsylvania, in York County. I went to 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade there. Dad's job took us down there for a little while. And then, thank God, came back to the Philadelphia area. I don't know if this is true now, but it was true then. The thing about Baltimore versus Philadelphia that I remember was that Baltimore's fan base, and I think now with the Ravens, it's a little different. But then the fan base was like, oh, you lost. Get them next time. We still had fun. That kind of thing. And then we came to Philadelphia, and I remember listening to a tent show, Eagles pregame show, and everyone was chanting, Cowboys suck. And then it was like, but the Eagles suck too, but the Cowboys really suck. And I'm like, I can identify with this fan base. My mindset identifies better with these people. Maybe it's because I'm originally from here. I don't know. Thanks for everybody in the chat. You guys are great as per usual. Time for the morning rush brought to you by Sky Motorcars, SkyMotorcars.com. MLB All-Star Game gets underway tonight, ladies and gentlemen, in Seattle. The Phillies will have Nick Castellanos to look forward to tonight as the game gets underway, and maybe seeing Craig Kimbrell make an appearance as well. That'd be a nice sight to see. What time we got? 8 o'clock start time tonight? What time is the All-Star game, PJ? Is it 8 o'clock? 8 o'clock. What the hell's bells? Yeah, 8 o'clock. There it is. Okay. Yeah. In Seattle, Zach Allen starts for the National League. Garrett Cole starts for the American League. So look forward to seeing some Phillies out there. Phillies get back at it 6:05 Friday night against San Diego Padres at home. So we'll have that to look forward to as well. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, everybody. You guys are great as per usual. My name is Mark Farzetta. This is the Farzy Show presented by Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. Back with you guys tomorrow. Have a good one. See ya.